Now, this photo is made up of 3 exposures combined into one using the Enfuse plugin. You'll get a similar result with Lightroom's HDR feature. And so I changed 3 things, and that is the white balance, the exposure, and I fixed the perspective. Besides that, I leave all the settings the same for pretty much every photo. So white balance, this one looks fine. As shot, you can try auto. You can also try using the white balance selector tool and clicking on something that looks completely white, or you can click on something that looks completely black. Highlights and shadows, this is what gives you that HDR look. Without it, it's a perfectly fine looking photo, but with the settings taken to the extremes, it gives it a more exciting look. Whites and blacks, you can hold down Shift, double click each one, see what Lightroom recommends. Personally, I don't mess with them for each photo, I leave them just like this. Clarity, that's kind of like contrast with the midtones, and add a decent bit of saturation and vibrance because I'm shooting in RAW, which does not really have very much saturation. Tone curve, I would just leave this alone if you're just building your first preset. You can play around with it a little bit if you'd like. Makes a picture a little more contrasty. Color controls here. If you notice, this microwave has a lot of blue in it coming in from the window. You can, desaturate the blues a little bit and get rid of that if you'd like, or you can not bother. Split toning, I wouldn't worry about that right now. Detail, you could add a little bit of sharpening because you're shooting in RAW most likely. And these 3 settings basically control what you're sharpening. So let's zoom in on some mixture of thin and thick lines here. And let's turn the sharpening all the way up. And you can kind of see by playing with this, you're basically choosing what you're sharpening. And you can tell what is being sharpened by how much noise there is, because I turned the sharpening all the way up, which will create noise. Personally, I like to leave it here. Detail, this is another tool to give you control over what you want to sharpen. I leave it in the default setting. Masking, to explain what this is, let's hold down the Alt key on Windows, and you can tell what you're sharpening. Everything that's black is not really being sharpened. Everything that's white is being sharpened. So if we take it all the way here, that means the entire picture is being sharpened. I don't want to do that. I want to just sharpen the thicker lines and not worry about, you see, like the ceiling or the flat areas of the cabinets. I don't really want to sharpen those. I just want to focus on accentuating the lines in between the cabinets, in between the appliances, the thicker lines in the granite, and the lines in between the tiles on the floor. And if we take it all the way to the right, now we're only sharpening the thickest of lines, and we're completely ignoring the ceiling, most of the cabinets, the floor completely. None of that is being sharpened at all. Personally, I like to leave it around 55 for all my shots. Luminance, this is noise reduction here. With things that are really dark here, like this Keurig machine, we're getting some noise. You can smooth that out pretty easily. But in this photo, this is the only thing that really has any noise with it. So I don't want to use this because it's going to give it a little bit of a buttery look to the rest of the photo, which kind of looks nice, but it's not really the look I'm going for. So I'm not going to add any noise reduction at all. Lens corrections, don't worry about this, except for these 2 settings. Make sure you have these checked. Profile corrections, that's basically just going to add some exposure around the edge of your lens to match the level of exposure in the center of the lens. transform, of course, these usually work pretty well. Sometimes in smaller rooms they won't, and you'll have to fix your photo manually. Make sure you constrain the crop, because if you do some manual corrections here and you don't, then you'll have this white here. So click constrain the crop and you take care of that. So effects, we're not going to be messing with vignetting. We're not going to be adding any grain, and maybe you can try dehaze on some exterior shots. See if you like it, but we're not going to be messing with that here. Camera calibration, this is if you think your photo is producing some, maybe, you know, the reds are a little bit oversaturated, so you can just have your preset to desaturate the reds a little bit on each photo that you apply the preset to. Personally, I think my camera shoots pretty evenly, so I just leave this alone. So that's it. Thank you for liking, and thank you for subscribing.